This is Dan Bolen, and I'm the host of the podcast, The Courage to Be Courageous, where people come from all over the world to share their stories of using courage to get through their fear. And we've had some incredible stories this year, and we're going to continue this year having more incredible stories as well. And I'd like to thank my audience for listening. I think you're going to find something useful in each podcast, and we're looking forward to being able to do more for you and continue to have you write in and tell me what type of podcast you'd like to listen to as well. My email is danbolen@cox.net. And so we'll look forward to you doing that. I just want to make one more, encouragement. There's an organization that I'm a part of called Gamma. In fact, if you go to my website and look under Harry Fox, Gamma, I interviewed him, who is one of the coordinators of Gamma. And it's an incredible organization, and I want to just be able to give a little bit more info on them. They're a gay man's group or a bisexual group, and some of them are married to women, some of them are out to their women, some of them are not out to their women. So it's a fantastic organization, and there's no judgment there. I belong to the organization that's out of Washington, D.C. We do Zoom calls usually every Tuesday. And usually it's East Coast time, it's from 7 to 8:30. But it's a great organization where people can go and share, gay people, heterosexual people that maybe are married to allies, married to women. And some of them are out, some of them are not. And it just shows the struggles that they're going through. And it's not a therapy session, but it's just listening and sharing stories to give each other encouragement and success, and it's a very valuable tool. I've been part of the organization for over a year, and it's been helpful for me and been helpful for so many people as well. I believe if you go to Harry Fox, I think the website is on there. Gamma is GAMMA. I think it may, I'm just guessing, but it may be .org. But you may want to try gamma.com as well. Anyway, I just wanted to give that information out to my listeners. Some of you are not familiar with it, and it's a wonderful organization. And Harry Fox, if you go under my website and look for the interview I did with Harry Fox from Gamma, you'll get more information on it. We have a great guest today. This is where we go international again. And this is a gentleman I've actually met off Facebook, and he lives in San Diego now. And I actually will probably get a chance to spend a little time with him because in the summer I spend my time in my condo in La Jolla, which is very close. Well, it's actually part of San Diego as well. This is Arturo Morales. Arturo, welcome to my podcast. It's such a pleasure having you. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dan. Pleasure to be here. Good. Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. Tell us a little bit about your history, Arturo, about where you were raised. But let's start with your education first. I think that's important to understand what your educational background is. So tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us about your family and how you were raised.
Yes, I'm from Mexico originally. I'm from Mexicali, Baja California. So I spent my first 25 years of my life in Mexicali. I was fortunate enough to go to high school, to go to college in Mexico. I have a BS in mechanical engineering from the State University of Baja California. I did move to Mexico City. I didn't go to school there, but I have taken several courses in computer science, particularly in data management. I also have been studying in the United States. I went to community college, and then I combined that with my studies in Mexico to be able to go to graduate school in San Diego. So I have a MBA in computer science as well.
Excellent. Good education there as well. Tell us a little bit about your family and when you were raised and how you knew that you were different or gay, as we know you are. So tell us how you dealt with that, and when did you know that you were different or gay?
Probably when I was in grade school, maybe 10 years old. I just felt like I was different. I would just hang out with the boys in my school. I went to Catholic school, so it was pretty rigid. It was a little bit stressful, to be honest with you. But it was a good education. Uh, I have my dad, my mom. I have two older sisters. I have a younger brother. Um, right now, I have a stepmom. My parents have been divorced for like over 25 years. So I have a stepmom, stepsisters. But it's mostly now that my mom has passed. It's just basically my dad, my two sisters, and my younger brother. And I have 3 nieces and 3 nephews.
Excellent. So, when did you tell your parents that you were gay? And when did you, I know you said you were different, but when did you know that that different meant gay? Would that still be the same time?
No, probably later in life when I was probably in high school, like 16, 17, when I started hearing those terms about gay or homosexual. I knew I was part of that group. So I would say high school years.
So did you feel any shame about that?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I was fortunate enough that I was never bullied. I was never harassed. People, nobody came to me and asked me, are you gay or not? So I was fortunate that way. I guess I never really felt uncomfortable or threatened or, at risk.
So you realized it later on and you knew you were gay. And did you come out to your parents at that time, or your mother and your sisters? And your younger brother?
No, I did have a cousin that I grew up with. He's a year older than me. So we're pretty close, growing up. We used to go to karate together, and we went to the same schools. We're not in the same grade, but we're pretty similar in age. So we had some common friends. So I came out to him when I was in my teens, I would say. But it was just between he and I.
How did he accept it?
He was pretty cool. He didn't mind either way. He was cool, and nothing changed really. Just we would talk about it here and there, but it was not a big deal.
Well, it took a lot of courage to go to your cousin and tell him that. But he was the first person. He's the first person that you told. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then when did you come out to your mother?
When I had a relationship with somebody that lives in San Diego, I met him when I was 20 years old. And we used to be very close to each other. So I used to make visits to San Diego every weekend. I was still going to school in Mexico. So I would make a special trips to meet this person. But it was every single weekend, basically. So my mom started asking me, who is this person? How come you always go see this person and not anybody else? So it was pretty obvious, but eventually I had to tell them because she wanted to come to San Diego and meet this person to see who really this person was. So she did come up with my aunt.
Do you think she suspected something?
No, I mean not at first. Maybe eventually she did because the trips were like too often, and it was a sacrifice, to come from Mexico to San Diego every weekend, especially at that age. It wasn't that easy to just you pack your bags and go. It was a process. It took time. It took planning. Like you give up a lot of time with my family, time with my friends in Mexico. So it was a compromise, and she just didn't understand why I was making those kind of sacrifices instead of just staying home and, meeting people in Mexico, or spending more time with family or friends I went to school with.
So then you told her that you were gay. Would that be correct?
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
What was her response?
She was not really surprised. She was not really upset. She was just surprised that the person I was dating was much older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that bothered her. Really.
So it was the older part.
Yes. It was more that than anything else. It was not the fact that I was gay. It was just that I was dating somebody much older.
Yes, I understand that as well. So, and I know your mother came to really embrace you even more, and we'll talk about that a little further. Now, you came out to your dad. I think your dad was in the Navy, correct?
No, my dad, he's a civil engineer in Mexico. He was good with the government.
Oh, so he wasn't in the Navy. Okay, I understand that. So you came out to him, and you didn't have as good a relationship with him. Would that be correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. He's a nice person, but we just don't relate. We never have related. We're just like two different people, and nothing bad happens. He was just like that since the beginning.
Yes. So what was his response when you came out?
He doesn't really say much, so he didn't really say anything, good or bad.
Uh-huh.
He met my ex-partner, and he liked him. He came up and visited from Mexico and stayed with us, but he didn't really say anything, good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. So his response was basically not saying anything and being neutral. Would that be a correct statement?
Correct.
Okay, That's great. So let's talk about your relationship. I know that you had a partner. I believe you were with him for 10 years. And
Correct.
he was he a priest in the parish?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you met. And there were others that were also, because I think many of us find that not familiar that a lot of priests are homosexuals. I mean, obviously there are, but you found this priest who was in a parish and he was gay. And tell me how that happened.
Yeah, I just met him in Silver Village, a neighborhood in San Diego, back in 2001. I was visiting San Diego with my family, and I just happened to basically met him on the street, just like that. We exchanged contact information and emails, and we instantly like each other, and we wanted to spend time with each other. So it was an instant connection. It was like love at first sight, I think. And it was wonderful. 10 years. It was great.
So
I really liked the guy.
So was it unusual for a priest to be gay that you met? Because I think you mentioned that there were other priests that were gay as well, part of your community. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. There's all kinds of people that I have run across my life, and priest or no priest, it's just I think just as man, I think it's a lot of us that choose different careers, and I think the only thing we have in common is that we all like same-sex partners.
So you did know other priests that like same-sex partners, correct?
I do a few, but I also know the people who do other jobs that also like same-sex.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, I mean, as a person who becomes a part of, who becomes a part of the church, who becomes a priest in the church, they're not allowed to have sex with men or women. And so sometimes they hold that in. And sometimes you can't hold it in. I think for a man to not have sex with a man or a woman, in my opinion, is inhuman. I just don't think that works for anyone. And
Correct.
it's interesting to know, because you are Catholic or were Catholic, and yet
Correct.
you were having, this affair with a priest with 10 years. And then you guys broke up, and then tell us what happened after that.
After that, I was on my own for maybe like a year and a half. I was that was when I was trying to get into my MBA program in San Diego. So I was more focused on my education, getting ahead, and I just started looking for programs in San Diego that I can go to and get accepted. So around that time, maybe a year later, I was able to find a school in San Diego that would take me to get my MBA education, and I did. I started doing that in 2013, or like 13. I eventually graduated in 2015. But it was a little bit hard, it was being on my own in a different country that I wasn't born in, and back then I didn't know that many people in the community. It was very, very few. I didn't have any family who live in San Diego, maybe a cousin that I was not very close to. But I didn't really have anybody that I could really trust. So I started putting myself out there and meeting, gay social clubs like the Front Runners, the Prime Timers, groups like that helped me meet people like me in San Diego. So I was lucky because I was able to make some friends through those organizations.
Because I know you went through some heartbreak of your first breakup, and it didn't go well, in the sense that you kind of got just pushed out and told to leave and move out of the house and so forth. So that had to be very traumatic for you, and I understand that. But you showed a lot of courage to continue on, and then you did find the love of your life. And tell us about that. Yeah,
luckily I found somebody not too long later after that at a Starbucks, of all places. And
at Starbucks, you guys were having coffee, huh?
Yes, not at the same time, but in the same location.
kind of a Starbucks date.
I know, right? It was almost meant to be. It was fun. I met this person. He was by himself reading a book, and I did go and approach him and introduce myself and say, my name is so and so, and just doing computer work here, and what's your name? And so next thing he says, what are you doing tomorrow? You want to have lunch? So I say, yeah, sure. So it was a regular thing. It didn't last very long, unfortunately, but it was very good as what it lasted. It was an instant connection as well. We would spend a lot of time together and just doing little things, mostly walks, coffee dates, maybe lunch or breakfast sometimes. But it was nice and quiet. The person was a little bit introverted. But he was a sweet person. He was very well liked and respected by his neighbors and friends, and his family.
What type of work did he do?
He worked for Air Canada in Los Angeles. He was originally from Chicago, and he had this job in the food and beverage department for Air Canada.
What was his first name?
Tom.
Tom. Okay, Tom. So I believe you guys were together about 2 years. And then what happened after the 2 years? I think you got married, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. But unfortunately, he passed away too soon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too, because that was a real tragedy in your life.
Yes.
So Tom and you were together for 2 years, and then you got married, and then 6 months later, you took a cruise.
Yeah, we went on a cruise ship to Mexico, celebrate the holidays. He didn't like Christmas, New Year, so I suggested we'll take a cruise, just he and I, and do something different compared to traveling somewhere with having to deal with family. So, yeah, he accepted because he loved Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and that was his favorite city in the world. So the cruise involved Cabo San Lucas, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta. It was just a 7-day cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
Out of San Diego. So we did that. And he was really excited about that, about going on this cruise with me. I think he was a little depressed, to be honest with you. So I was trying to lift up his spirits. So yeah, we had a good day and a half, I guess, on the cruise ship. And then, yeah, he just died on the cruise ship.
Wow.
I just had a heart attack, and it was a very traumatic event. I don't know. It's just hard to describe. It's hard to kind of go back and think about that. But
yes, it's
it was
hard.
very sad. It was really stressful. It was depressing. It was.
I think you were coming back from having a drink, and you found him that he had had a heart attack, and that had to be incredibly painful, very painful.
Yes.
How did you get through that, Arturo? How did you move on from that? Because that's one of the most painful experiences you can have, in the death of your husband or a loved one. It's difficult. How did you get through that with courage?
Yeah, with friends and family. My mom was really supportive. My mom met him more than a couple of times. He actually liked him very much. He would like to go to Mexico, visit my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She come up to San Diego to visit us. So it was mostly my mom. She was really supportive. She was always there for me. She came up, spent times with me. She went to the funeral services, both in San Diego and then in Chicago. They had a different funeral service. So she was always there by my side. Also, my friends were really also very supportive, who knew him personally.
Mm-hmm.
They would like call, text, visit. So I had a lot of support that otherwise I would not have.
Mm-hmm. Shows the importance of us having a community, doesn't it, Arturo? We need a community. Not only in the good times of our life do we need a community, but particularly in the hard times of our life. It helps us cope with the grief. I really understand how that's important, and I'm a big supporter of community. Now, I think it's pretty amazing that your mom not only came to his funeral in San Diego, but flew all the way with you to Chicago to attend his funeral there. What a tremendous amount of support she gave you. I think you were living with your husband in Hillcrest, California, right?
Correct.
But it was still painful for you, and you decided to do a move. But tell us a little bit about the pain and why you decided to. Just tell us about the history of how you were able to get out of Hillcrest and what the reason for that was.
Yeah, I kind of felt overwhelmed. For one thing, we live in a high rise. And the neighbors are very nice, but some of them would ask like the others questions. And I just kind of made me feel uncomfortable. I just didn't want to. I just wanted to leave like the building, the neighbors, and San Diego for a while. I love San Diego, but I thought I needed like a little break. Mm-hmm. I needed to get away for a while, start from scratch, think over. So that's one of the reasons I decided to move to the East Coast. I moved to New York City for a while.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you there?
2 years.
3 years, okay.
Did you? 2, I'm sorry.
2 years, okay. Did you find that helped you deal with the grief?
Yeah, I did. It was like starting from the beginning and from zero, which was good and bad. I mean, I love New York. I love my time there, but it was just difficult to start without knowing anybody, without having a job, the weather, the winters. it was difficult, but it was necessary, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I was okay to stay here in San Diego then.
Well, you were taking care of yourself, and you knew that in order for you to deal with the grief and loss of your husband, that you needed a change. And you were courage enough to take that change, even though you didn't know anybody in New York. How long ago was it that your husband died?
Oh, that was going to be almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years.
A little longer, maybe a little longer, right? It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies.
On what's that?
Yeah, time flies. It's been
time flies, yeah.
Seems like 20 years. It hasn't been that long, but it seems like 20 years.
So tell us a little bit about your life today. And you actually have a good job at the hotel in Coronado, which if anybody's ever been there, it's absolutely a beautiful hotel.
Yes.
Beautiful hotel. So tell us about what you do there and how your life is. And are you at peace with who you are right now, or not so much at peace? Just give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I love my job. The hotel, I've been there I've been with them for almost 2 years. I have a good position in the offices, like between sales and IT, guest services. It's a good position. Great to meet a lot of great colleagues, guests, and the property itself is beautiful. So it's like being on vacation 5 days a week when I'm working there. It doesn't get any better than that.
It's beautiful. I've seen it. Yes, beautiful.
And it treats very well. It treats excellent. We have benefits. We got training, travel. I really like my team, my colleagues. It's like a second family to me.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of me, I feel good. I have a lot of friends now. I have a lot of friends, mostly in San Diego. I get to see them often. I belong to a couple of social groups here that I try to keep up with them.
Could you tell us about the social groups that you have found as a part of your community?
Yeah, I do mostly have like a coffee group I belong to. There is also like a black tie group I belong to. There's a lunch group.
I think you mentioned front runners and walkers.
Front runners, yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm a part of that group in San Diego. It's a fantastic group, and we do Balboa Park every Saturday.
Right.
It's an incredible group.
I belong to them for a while. I haven't rejoined, but I do. I'm aware of that group, and I really like it. I just should go back into it. Just my schedule's been a little bit,
of course,
hectic lately. But there's so many things, so many great people here in the community. I talk to them on the phone. We text. So it's a good way to don't feel lonely.
I think that one of the things that some of our listeners here, some of them who are not come out as gay, or some that are struggling, I've always emphasized the importance of community. Everybody needs a community, whether we're heterosexual allies. Everybody needs a community. We were not put on this earth to be alone. We were put on this earth to be a part of a community, and I think that your story really reiterates that, is that we need a community in our life, because without a community, we feel alone. And when we're feeling alone, we feel we're the only person going through what we're going. And when you become a part of a community that identifies you as authentic, then that's a great gift, because you feel comfortable, you feel you can be yourself, you can be open with them. And I think that's really important to emphasize to our podcast listeners. Find a community, whatever that community is. Some great communities are theater in San Diego. There's a great theater called the Diversionary Theater, which I support. Wonderful community there. There's many different communities there. So I want to tell my listeners to find a community in your area, because I think that's important in being able to deal with the courage that you need to continue to go forward as well. So you're single now, obviously, and are you dating now?
No, I have a few people in my life that I really consider very special, but the long distance
Yes.
it's difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish we live in the same place in the same city, but just being like across the country on the East Coast and being on the West Coast is difficult.
Yes.
So I wish it was different if we both live in the same
Yes.
on the same city.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is a good comment to make. Sometimes when you're far apart, it's hard to have a relationship. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's harder when you're East Coast to West Coast. I get that as well. Arturo, it's just such encouraging to have you on my podcast today, and I want to thank you for your openness, for your honesty. We've had several other guests of other cultures or other nationalities that felt in a way they were marginalized. You've never felt that in your life, correct?
No, never have. I've been very lucky. Never have at all. I cannot really think of one episode in my life where I felt marginalized at all.
Can you tell us about that episode?
No, I never had one.
So you never had one. Oh, okay. Okay.
No, so I'm lucky that way.
Yeah, that is special. That is special.
Yes, I'm lucky that way
as well. So one of the things I always ask my podcast guests to share with their listeners, this goes out to media networks, 30 media networks worldwide, and so you're going to have people from different parts of the world that are going to be listening to this. And some of them, I always want my guests to tell how their story affects the courage they had and what you would like to share as your final thought. How does your story and your experience, what do you want people to learn from that, Arturo?
Yes, of course. I would say just be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Love the people you want, male, female, doesn't matter. You're gay, straight, bisexual. Just be honest with yourself. Be honest with other people. And if you love somebody, tell them you love them, how much you appreciate them before it's too late. It's important to repeat those words. I love you. I care about you. Thank you for being my friend, my partner. Because you never know; it can be too late. Eventually,
you've experienced that in your own life. Yeah, you've experienced it. Yeah, and I did. I think that's an incredible thought to keep in mind. But there's going to be people that are fearful of being their authentic self.
Right.
I certainly was. I was so fearful my whole life. Is there any thought you have in mind how you can help them get through the fear? I think you made one point, is be their authentic self. But sometimes people are scared to death to be their authentic self. And usually there's some shame into it. They're ashamed of something, ashamed of being who they are. And I think they have to break that shame down and use courage.
Yeah, I think find like an ally, like you mentioned earlier today, somebody you can trust, somebody you can talk to, can be anybody, a friend, a colleague, a relative, because there's always somebody there that will listen to you without criticizing you or judging you. Just find the right person that you trust, that you can open up and really, open up and share your story.
That's a great statement. Great statement, Arturo. I really appreciate you emphasizing that. Sometimes for individuals, sometimes their community is a community of one.
Yes, exactly.
It can be a community of one. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate the courage that you showed to be able to be your authentic self and be able to show so much courage in your life. And this story will, I'm sure, help a lot of others. I'll be leaving for San Diego, La Jolla at the end of this month, and I want to meet you for dinner or lunch with my partner, John. And we would love
That'd
to
be
do
great.
that with you. We're looking forward to it as well. So thank you. Thank you, Arturo, for telling your
Thank you,
story
Dan.
and being on my podcast.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.